It was a track that was built with sports cars in mind, and tonight, Mid-Ohio welcomes the super exciting Daytona prototypes and the Rolex Sports Car Series. It's time to turn up the heat on the Rolex Sports Car Series. Two teams have risen to the top of the championship chase. The 01 CompUSA Ganassi squad of Scott Pruitt and Max Pappas top the standings after 6 rounds. But they'll have their hands full with the number 10 SunTrust duo of Wayne Taylor and Max Angelelli. Both teams have won twice and are first and second in the point standings. Who'll grab win number 3 today at Mid-Ohio? Will the 0 come before the 1 or after it? Join us next for the Rolex Sports Car Series, American road racing at its best. Speed Channel welcomes you to Lexington, Ohio for round 7 of the Rolex Sports Car Series. After a 1-month break, the teams are well rested to take the race for the championship to a whole new level. This is the EMCO Gears Mid-Ohio Road Racing Classic. And speaking of that race for the championship, it doesn't get any tighter than this. Just 11 points separating the Ganassi and SunTrust teams. Scott Pruitt, Max Pappas lead the way. And those two teams, with their drivers, the only two on the same point score. The rest in the top 8 are separated at least. Wallace and Duno there. Terry Borcheller and Court Wagner, although not in the same car, do share 5th place points ahead of Didier Tays, a former champion, and Jimmy Morales. That race for the championship does get a little more serious from here on in. 6 down and 6 to go. We enter the latter half of this Rolex Sports Car Championship. Hello everyone, I'm Lee Diffie along with our road racing analyst Dorsey Schrader. Dorsey, up until this point, if you'd asked any of the competitors about going for the championship, they would have said, no, it's too early to talk about that. From this point on, it does get serious.
Well, the top 2 teams at least, they have to just keep doing what they've been doing, the consistency of getting to what they've had done so far this year. But the rest of the guys, a lot of teams and drivers that have not yet scored a win, they've got to be aggressive. They got to win right now.
I mentioned at the top of the show the teams are well rested. Well, some of the teams are well rested.
Well, the break they've had since Daytona, everybody's tested a lot, and they've not only tested the race car, but they've tested a lot of brand new drivers. Some of those maybe for this year, but most definitely a lot for next.
And one of those guys in the race for the championship is SunTrust's Wayne Taylor. He's a busy man this weekend, a busy man in the championship, but he's had a bit of an off-track experience this weekend. He's doing it tough, and he's doing it tough for a number of reasons, and Chris Neville tells us why.
With a win at Daytona, Max Angelelli and Wayne Taylor are aggressively chasing down Pruitt and Pappas in this championship. However, this weekend, Max Angelelli will not be starting the number 10 SunTrust because of another racing commitment. Manuel Collard will be starting with Wayne Taylor today. Wayne, with the absence of Max this weekend, how does that affect your strategy for this race and your chase for the overall championship?
Well, it's a shame, that Max couldn't be here, but he has a commitment to Cadillac CTS, and Emmanuel's driven with both Max and I many times, and so we knew this was going to happen at some point, and we just have to approach it the same way we have at all the other events and see how it comes out at the end.
Well, the Riley package has been so tough to beat this year. However, the Crawfords have been testing since Daytona. They think they've got something to beat. With more on the story from the other side of the front row, Calvin Fish.
Well, Chris, as you mentioned, a very busy weekend around the country, and even though Max Angelelli couldn't be here, a lot of the drivers are pulling double duty, and none more high profile than this man, Scott Pruitt. Scott, you're on the pole here today, but you're also running the Brickyard over in Indy. Hasn't been an easy weekend for you. Yesterday you had problems. First of all, how are you feeling and what happened there?
Sore. Tore up my ribs pretty good. I got bumps and bruises all over my body. They're not really sure. Just it was only the 3rd lap out. We were just getting up to speed. And the car just jumped right out from underneath me as I exited turn 1. I was back on the gas, and it was a hard hit. It was hard. Tried to knock the wall down.
All right, mate. Well, good luck this afternoon. Certainly this team is strong. It's their 6th pole position out of the 7 events, Lee. But even though they have that record in qualifying, they're still looking for their first win in the shorter format. They've won 2 races this year, but they are both 6-hour events.
Thanks, Cal, and you'd have to say that they are favourites to win today at Mid-Ohio, but we will find out. So much to talk about in this 2 3/4 hour race. It's round 7 of the Rolex Sports Car Series, up next on Speed. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio. Time to take a look at the BMW track map and a man to talk us around who has been victorious here many times. Dorsey, tell us more.
Well, Mid-Ohio is a very fast racetrack, a lot of corners here, very little mechanical grip. Turn 1 here, this is the finish line, but that's not where we're going to start today. Best passing position is braking up here for what they call the keyhole. Another great spot right here at the end of the back straightaway. Now, this is called madness. All this thing right through here, we're going to see a lot of side-by-side bumping and banging right through there, no question about it. The start today happens right here, so this is be side by side. Both sides of the track are going to be good. The number 10 car on the outside, it can lead going into turn 4, which is going to be their start turn.
And we will keep an eye on that. Time to take a look at how they line up here for Mid-Ohio, the EMCO Gears Mid-Ohio Road Racing Classic. And as Calvin mentioned earlier, that staggering figure and success rate, 6 poles from 7 races. Well done to the CompUSA team and Max Pappas. Wayne Taylor in the SunTrust Riley starts right alongside him. Mike Borkowski did an outstanding job. Well done to him in the Pontiac Riley for Mears Motor Coach, getting on that second row. Great effort from him. Just ahead of Oswaldo Negri. He's all pumped up. Back on the 4th row, EFR and Didier Tays. Young Ben Leuenberger from Switzerland will drive with him again. Stefan Gregoire, Doug Goad looking for more top 10 results and improving their positions all the time ahead of Chris Hall and Larry Huang. Brent Martini set to go for GNWRX.com, and Milcaduno, Andy Wallace, another guy doing double duty this weekend. Shane Lewis, big weekend for the Southern Motorsports team. Local team, a lot of fans out here, and JC France, Hurley Hayward a little further back. Forrest Barber there with Terry Borchella. And with more on GT, here's Calvin.
Well, since the last round, Lee, a couple of the cars have been given a weight break in the GT category. One is the Acura NSX. It's had 150 pounds taken off their minimum weight. But more importantly, for the Porsche GT3 RSs, they've got 125 pounds taken off those cars as they chase down the BMWs. It didn't stop Billy Orblin, though, from grabbing the pole in the PTG BMW M3. And he goes for a remarkable 6th straight victory in GT today. Let's go down to Chris Neville.
Cal, we've got double trouble on the front row of the SGS class. Both the 41 of the Nanomakers and the 36 of Levitas and Dumoulin have been sent to the back of the pack because of ride height infractions. That puts Mark Bunting and Andy Lally in the front position. They're our points leader, and they're looking to extend that lead.
And Mike Borkowski jumps out of line, tries to put the move on Max Pappas. He goes flying up the inside, and Wayne Taylor has been pushed back to 4th.
Wayne had a terrible start. He could have capitalized on that start had he been alongside, but he didn't. He missed up. I don't know if he missed a gear possibly.
So they saw themselves out through madness and down into turn 6. Settling themselves down on the opening lap. Packed field of Daytona prototypes here at Mid-Ohio for round 7, and it's Mad Max who leads the way.
Slippery tires on a slippery racetrack this first lap. You really have to watch yourself that you don't get overcooked into a corner and have a spin.
The Mears Motor Coach, Pontiac Riley, we saw it lead at the Paul Revere at the hands of Sylvain Tremblay. Sylvain not driving today. Of course, he is a 3rd driver with that team. It's all about Paul Mears Jr. and Mike Borkowski. This time a year ago, Borkowski was driving for Brumos in the 58 Red Bull car. Now with Mears and running at the front. He's all pumped up this weekend.
He is pumped up indeed. It's one of these teams that opening that we were talking about has got to make something happen. It's the 6th race, and they have to get a win. Oswaldo
Negri sits 3rd, chasing hard, but look at these two up front. They're setting a cracking pace early. That unique start here at Mid-Ohio that we just saw, of course, they start on the back stretch going down into turn 3, and that's in the name of safety, Dorsey.
Right, turn 1 here is so tight that if you start on the front straightaway, mostly you get a big wreck down there in turn 1, so they start on the back. Unique to this racetrack.
Taylor sits 4th, just ahead of the Red Bull Brumos machine. Top 5, there you have it. Then the second Ganassi car of Luis Diaz, Jimmy Morales.
Jimmy Morales told me that they were so close in practice that when they went to qualifying, they tried to be tricky, tried to go and do a little tweak to get more speed, and they went the wrong way. Slowed the car up, and that's why he's back there. But they feel really confident that they can get up to the front now.
Darren Law hunting down Wayne Taylor, the 58 Red Bull Brumos. We go on board with Darren Law. Let's have a listen. 2001 Rolex Sports Car Series GT champion with his hands full at the moment. He's got Jimmy Morales pushing nice and hard from behind, and there is the 4 of Elliott Forbes Robinson sitting nice in the top 10, just ahead of the 27 of Didier Tays.
Didier Tays having a look here, trying to get up close enough to get into the brake zone. This is a really important corner of the keyhole you'll have to get through here because it comes on the longest straightaway, the back straightaway here, and the exit speed here carries all the way down that straight. Couple old timers, my old teammate EFR and Didier Tays have done battle for many years.
Good solid start. Up front though, Pappas and Borkowski.
Uh-oh.
Well, we've lost one of the Planet Earth Porsches. And it is the 42.
Oh, that's a dangerous place to do that. Holy moly, that wasn't kind.
And that was Joan on a makeup. rapidly getting himself out of trouble, but almost getting himself into more trouble.
Yeah, that was the exit of turn 1. We'll have a look at it here and see what's going on with the Nonamaker.
Joe's coming on the inside.
No, he's actually already up there. He actually just got in the middle of the corner with too much speed and spins. Now here is a real dicey situation. You know, if he turned right there, he could have gone around in the grass, but instead of doing that, he's going to cut across in front of him. It's pretty scary. Good
reactionary driving from Bob Ward in the 47 to miss him, and the rest of the SGS drivers as well. So a lucky escape there for Joe Nonamaker.
You got to wonder if he did damage to the car when he jumped that curb. The car came 2 feet up in the air, so that's not great for the suspension.
Race leader Max Pappas, second place. Mike Borkowski. Now look at this group. Wayne Taylor's got some momentum now as he draws right in close to Oswaldo Negri in the Michael Shank car.
Yeah, now finally the temperatures are up in the tires and the pressures are built up. Wayne feels comfortable. He's going to start with mounting an attack now. This the long straightaway with best passing point right down here at the end. Let's see. Here he goes. He's trying to set it up.
Oh, inside. Thinks about it. Thinks about it. He's not close enough.
No, Oswaldo was having none of that. Drives it in good and deep.
I mentioned earlier it's a big weekend for Southern Motorsports. What about for the 6th team? Michael Shank Racing, another Ohio-based team. They've got some 200 guests here this weekend, all fired up and pushing Oswaldo and young Bert Frizzell in their quest for victory and to stay in the hunt for this championship.
And if ever a team needs an attaboy, that team really is doing the most with the least. They came into it with a couple of drivers that weren't the most well-known in the bunch and showed speed all the way through the entire year.
Not to mention the incredible preparation and dedication from the team. And as they get into their stride, there is Christopher Vandenberg, the brother of AJ Vandenberg, who lost his life in Iraq recently, and we thank those guys and the family for being our special guests here today at Mid-Ohio. A welcomed addition to the 2004 Rolex Sports Car Series was former GT champion Bill Auberlen and Big Boris Said. They came in as part of the PTG BMW 2-car effort, and after 6 rounds of this championship, they lead the way. And for the majority of the season, they were the combination in the 21. But at Daytona recently, the Paul Revere, we saw the separation of Bill and Boris, and they are running in separate cars now and giving Bill Auberlen a run at the championship outright, and that looks to be the way that it is going to happen. Auberlen going for an incredible 6th victory here today, on board with the PTG BMW, and these guys running very nicely at the front of the GT field. It's a 1-2 for PTG BMW at the moment.
I drove one of these BMWs before for Tom Milner, and I'll tell you what, this is a handling machine. There's no car that I've driven that does any better job of getting through the corners than this BMW.
And the praise gets heaped a lot on Boris Said and Bill Auberlen, but they have 2 great young drivers in Justin Marks and Joey Hand. Let's hear from Joey now.
Thanks, Lee. Joey, typically we see the 21 and the 22 doing the exact same times out on the racetrack, but in qualifying, Boris was about 1.5 seconds off of Bill's qualifying time. Now he looks like he's back up there. What was wrong with the car yesterday?
Well, you know, we just came out of the trailer a little off the pace. We did some diff stuff overnight. The guys worked really hard on our team, and we did some brake stuff, and everything really came together this morning. The car was really fast, probably the best car I've driven all year. You know, Boris and I work really well together. We have the same feedback. He lets me do some things. I go with what he knows as well, you know, because he's pretty smart. He did some finishing touches for the race setup, and we went with it. It looks like the car's running great.
You and Justin were hooked up pretty much all year together. The switch came at Daytona where they put you guys, you with Boris and Justin with Bill. Now, are you guys learning something from these older guys, or are you teaching them something?
You know, I'm always learning. I'm trying to learn. I mean, you talk about, I watched Boris when I was growing up racing. I mean, he's driven everything, you know. So it's actually an honor to race with him. I know Justin learns a lot from Bill. We're just both trying to get as much knowledge as we can and win a race. This BMW team is a great team to be with. There's a lot of knowledge here. Tom Milner makes great calls in the pit lane. So whatever I can do to help, I'm trying to do, but couldn't be team with a better guy.
Well, Joey's going to have a lot of weight on his shoulders because both Boris and Bill are tied up for the championship now.
And here we see Boris Said in the 22. PTG BMW back at the front, though, as they come by the Baldwin Taffel Porsche. It's still Oswaldo Negri Jr. fending off from Wayne Taylor. Watch the black and yellow machine on the inside.
This battle just came by our announce booth into turn 1, and man, oh man, they tried to go 3 wide through there. So everybody on the attack, this whole group right here. Mike Barbakowski leads that. Oswaldo right behind. Wayne Taylor very aggressive.
Let's talk you through the engine chassis combinations, because this is what makes Daytona prototype racing so interesting. You've got a Pontiac-powered Riley ahead of a Lexus-powered Doran. Then you've got a Pontiac-powered Riley. There's a Porsche-powered Fab Car and a Lexus-powered Riley. All different combinations. They're fighting it out second, third, fourth, and fifth.
And to equalize all these different types of engines and gearboxes, they do it in many, many different ways. They use RPM. The BMW runs 7,000. The Ford motor at 6,900. The Chevrolet 6,500. The Lexus at 8,000. The Porsche is open revs.
The 58 Red Bull Brumos machine with Darren Law at the wheels, right in the thick of it, and Calvin's with his co-driver.
David, it looks like Darren is having a tremendous run out there. I know your team has been working tirelessly to get this car up to speed, and it looks like some of the development is paying off finally.
Yeah, we did a great test a couple weeks ago at VIR. We really learned a lot. I think there's definitely a really bright light at the end of the tunnel, and as a friend says, it's not a train coming the other way, so we're real optimistic. Nothing's going to happen real quick, but we're making headway, and it's not that we're that far off to begin with. So the whole Brumos team never gives up, and we keep working hard. The Red Bull guys are really smoking in their work, and it's unbelievable. I mean, you look around behind you now, we got the telemetry down for some reason. Here they are, like rebuilding the whole system right behind us. We don't even know what's going on out there other than Darren's up to 4, so we're pretty excited.
Well, they know he's fast. They don't need telemetry to see that, Lee.
They certainly don't, but Darren's got his hands full with Jimmy Morales. The Mexican is working him over big time. Meanwhile, the sister Ganassi car is up front to the tune of 7+ seconds over the head of this group, Mike Borkowski, who's being sucked into their battle. We go on board now with Darren Law.
Take a look at the concentration as he goes through the twisty ends of this racetrack. One thing I've noticed in this last couple of frames that we've been looking at is the 10 car of Wayne Taylor, which has been so superior all year long under braking, is not being able to outbrake Oswaldo Negri. Negri has been better under brakes. And we've never seen that before. That's quite amazing. These guys really going at it now.
Back behind these guys, it is the second Howard. It's the first Howard Boss car of Elliott Forbes Robinson from Didier Tays, and the Hall Huang car running inside the top 10 ahead of Martini and Wagner. Chris, what do you have as we see a move? Through on the inside, Wayne Taylor moves up to third now. Chris Neville.
Well, Bill Riley just went and had a little talk with one of the officials down here. He's a little bit concerned about Oz Negri doing some blocking on the 10 car. Wayne says he's having a difficult time getting around him. He's making more than 1 or 2 moves on the racetrack to block him. So these guys are saying, hey, that's not fair. We're trying to get around him, and that thing can't stop well. For more in the 6, Calvin?
Well, we talked about the month-long break and how the teams have been working. Certainly the Shank team has been working tirelessly as well. They haven't had their drivers in the car, but they've done a couple of tests with other drivers, and they've tried out a new front underwing, which has really given the car a lot more stability. And Ozzy said that the car's a lot better under braking and certainly turn into the corner. But he said the real key we're looking for is a car that will not overload the tires. He said we've had a very fast race car. We've been quick for 5-10 laps in the races, but we need one that will stay underneath us for a whole fuel stint.
And Darren Law has got through on Oswaldo Negri as well, and now Jimmy Morales is lining up for a shot. So Negri has been opened up here, and they're all pouncing. So, and look at it, Wayne Taylor's opened up a gap, and now he's starting to contend with Mike Borkowski. Fast and furious at the front of this pack. Spinner here, it's one of the TPC Porsches, it's the 36. And that is the car this weekend being run by Mike Levitas and Jean-Francois Dumoulin.
Boy, I tell you what, he did a good job getting that Porsche out of the way, but coming back on the track there, that's a blind corner for all these guys coming at him.
Championship leader in the SGS
Somebody's
class.
In the ditch. One of our top prototypes has just crashed right back there where the car just went by.
Well, and it's the 0-2 of Jimmy Morales. And I would say at a guess that was trying to execute a move on Oswaldo Negri.
Look at the radiator screen. It's completely clogged with grass now. He's going to end up having to come in.
Elliott Forbes Robinson now gets closer to Morales. What a frantic start to this one. Meanwhile, it's all playing into the hands of Mad Max Pappas. He's disappeared up front now in excess of 10 seconds out in front, but this is the man who just had a scary moment.
Yeah, he did that. That's a scary place to go off. There's a big gravel traps around here. Usually when you go off, you get into that gravel trap, and that's all the end of it.
And we have got a full course caution, the first of the day. It was predicted we would have a few here at Mid-Ohio.
Look at the grass all in front of that radiator. There's the car I was talking about. It was not this car that was off the racetrack where I saw it go off. It was this car here.
Brent Martini in the RX.com Doran. Something has happened to the G&W Motorsports machine, and we will find out exactly what when we return from this commercial break. There's the Ganassi guys. They're pumped up. Things going great for them today.
Welcome back to the Rolex Series racing here at Mid-Ohio. Problems for the 02 car. He's been off the track, he's come in, they've changed tires, and now they're trying to clear out the radiator grill. They're looking at the temperatures on this Lexus-powered Riley. Jimmy Morales behind the wheel. He actually came through a driving school here a couple of weeks ago. He's never raced here before at Mid-Ohio to try and learn the racetrack. And right now the team are looking at telemetry. They're actually inserting a water pressure system to the right-hand side here to make sure that this engine is good to go the rest of the way. The team is in radio communication. They're being very calm here. They just want to stay on the lead lap, get the car perfect, and get Jimmy back on track.
Down here with Court Wagner, Brent Martini's teammate. The 81, some problems out on the racetrack. What'd you hear from Brent?
I heard that a Porsche got inside of him and broke a suspension piece, so that's all we know at the moment. It's really a shame. The RX.com car, these G&W Motorsports, these guys put together a great car. I mean, we're looking for a good podium finish this weekend, and it looks like it might elude us, by the amount of gravel on this car. But, RX.com has been such a great supporter of our effort. I can't thank them enough.
Well, these guys have had some bad luck lately, and they're looking to turn that around, and Court is still hoping to try and get the top 3 of this championship, so he's just hoping he can get in this car today and get a couple laps out on the racetrack.
And boy, have they got some clean-up work to do there as they go to work, the G&W team. Tough break, tough start. From one Doran to another Doran. And this is the Michael Shank Racing machine with Oswaldo Negri on board. He was certainly in the thick of it early on and will remain to be. And you can't help but think about our race leader at the moment under this first full course yellow dorsey, Max Pappas. His 11-second lead just evaporated.
Yeah, all that bravado, all that hard work is now for naught because he's got the whole pack right behind him. All closed back up, and everybody's up to temperature and so forth now.
And look what's happened here. While we were focusing on all those off-track skirmishes, Wayne Taylor managed to get by Mike Borkowski before the yellow came out. So the SunTrust machine is up to second, ahead of the Mears Motor Coach, Darren Law, then Oswaldo Negri, then Elliot Forbes Robinson, then Didier Tays, then Chris Hall, Stefan Gregoire, and of course, as Calvin mentioned, Jimmy Morales bringing the 0-2 in and trying to get back out on track as quickly as possible and stay on the lead lap. We're working our way back toward green and back to the restart. Well, we'll continue to talk a lot about the Michael Shank Racing team today because it is their home track, a big event for them, as I mentioned. Many friends, family and fans here supporting them, and they are the feature point in our Lexus Spotlight.
We are so hooked up. It's almost, I can say that we are one thing, and it couldn't be a better situation for myself and for my teammates for this year.
Oz and I bring together a nice package of, he has got a lot of experience, I've got some youth, and we're close friends. We live walking distance from each other, so the whole package gelled so quickly, and it allowed us to compete and really be more aggressive and just be able to show what we could do right out of the box than have to have a formation period. So it was pretty nice.
There's no egos in the team. First, I mean, we help each other. It's an open book between me and Bert.
We just want to do whatever the team, makes the team go forward as quickly as possible. And the nice thing with Oz and I is there's no hard feelings no matter what happens. Our whole goal is to make the program itself be better, and we have a perfect relationship to do that. So it's been awesome.
The team is it's got the right number of mechanics and personnel working on the car. I would say they are one of the best in the paddock. We just need more budget.
Right now, our biggest focus is just putting together a fully funded program for next year, so we can do the development and testing that we really had no chance to do this year.
I think we've been dealing with it pretty well, and I just hope we continue being strong and doing the best we can every single race, and an opportunity for sure will come.
They currently sit in the top 5 at the moment, right in the thick of this battle with the Daytona prototypes up front. 3 classes racing on the track all at once, and we're about to go back to full throttle racing here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. This is the EMCO gears Mid-Ohio Road Racing Classic, and Mad Max Pappas puts his foot to the floor. We're back to racing.
Well, Wayne Taylor held back on purpose to get a run on these Porsches. That Maserati, he's by it cleanly. Now he's got 2 Porsches between him. And look at the big distance already that Max Pappas has opened up.
And Borkowski's running with him. Make no mistake about that. And Darren Law is trying to also. Now he gets by the Orbit Porsche. Through on the inside there. Borkowski and Law. Freight training Wayne Taylor.
Now these prototype guys have been known to muscle these Porsches out of the way if they get in the hindrance. They've done it before.
Here's where they get to really stretch their legs at Mid-Ohio. Down through turn 3 and the downhill fast run to turn 4. Chris Hall is having a great run at the moment. Here's Law on the inside of Borkowski.
Nice pass, does it perfectly in the right place. Outbreaks him down the end of the straightaway. And we saw a lot of tire smoke. Somebody really locked up in front.
Darren Law has been having some tremendous opening stints in the Rolex Sports Car Series this year. His first year in the Brumos Porsche organization and thoroughly enjoying it. Calvin, what do you have for us down there?
Well, the number 9 car is certainly having a great run here. Mike Borkowski qualifying the car very well. We expected that here. He finished second last year with the Brumos team and is a Mid-Ohio school instructor here as well, so he knows the racetrack like the back of his hand. But certainly the performance of Paul Mears this weekend has been sensational as well. He's really a lot more comfortable in this Riley chassis than the Multimatic, and he was down in the 123s, which is very respectable. And I think when Mike turns the car over this weekend, he'll certainly be able to hold his own a little bit better, Lee.
They went testing. They did a fairly healthy testing run at Barber Motorsports Park recently, and talking with Mike and Paul, the big positive to come out of that test is Paul Mears got a lot of laps, a lot of miles.
Yeah, but I wish Calvin wouldn't say turn the car over. That makes me nervous sometimes.
Only because you know what it feels like.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Shank, the Michael Shank car with Oswaldo Negri starting to reel him in. A little bit behind him, we pick up Elliot Forbes Robinson in the first of the Howard Boss Crawfords. And we pick up Milka Duno back in 10th position. Here they come. There's Chris Hall in the Silverstone Racing Services machine. And here is the 54, the Bell Motorsports machine with Forrest Barber. He currently sits in 17th overall.
Actually, Terry Borscheller.
Terry, rather, has climbed in the car now. And Jimmy Morales trying to get by him.
Terry got in at that last pit stop, so he's in there. He's the fast driver in that car, so it should be moving forward. Of course, we saw this car crash so badly in Daytona. The last time out had a huge accident and cost the team a lot of money to get that one back together.
In excess of $30,000 worth of crash damage there for those guys to get it all squared away and get it sorted for this race.
Now this shows you the frustration at Mid-Ohio. There just isn't a lot of room to maneuver your car to pass a slower car. Even though he's much quicker, Terry's a much faster car in that prototype than these Porsches. There just isn't anywhere to go with that speed. About 2 or 3 times a lap. Now some people get desperate and stick the nose in. They're trying right now, the Porsche driver not letting him have any room whatsoever.
Through the carousel.
Look on his rear. Look at this. Now we're going to go 3 wide up toward turn 1.
Jimmy Morales getting impatient, but so too Terry Borchella. Now they freight train by.
Like I said, these guys will muscle one of these little cars out of the way if they have to. Riding on board, there is Terry Borcheller. You see him checking the mirrors, making sure that he's clear.
You're looking here 15th and 16th overall as we pick up the 38 TPC Porsche, and that's Mark Bunting at the moment, and he and Andy Lally doing a stunning job in the SGS class this year. They are the points leaders.
And remember, these guys own this much racetrack as the prototype cars. They're having a race for position right now, so the prototype cars lapping their way through. They don't have to give way to them by any means. This race is on.
And this is first and second in SGS. The Planet Earth Motorsports car tries to come through on the inside of Mark Bunting. Can't quite do it. There's the 57 Stevenson Porsche. That's a GT car, not an SGS car. It storms through on the inside. So they sort themselves out. Meanwhile, up the front of this field, it is all Max Pappas, 6 seconds ahead of Wayne Taylor. Can Taylor respond and do anything about this man? He has been lightning fast all weekend here at Mid-Ohio and done the lion's share of the work because Pruitt's been at Indy. We'll see what happens. Taylor's in hot pursuit. The SGS class has been hotly contested this year, and it was the Doncaster boys who won in the wet at the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. But the TPC team has been outstanding with Bunting and Lally, Levitas and Popes. They have been really, really strong. And then the Nonamakers Wayne Nonamaker in particular won the most recent race at the Paul Revere. And back up front in this class, it is the 38 of Mark Bunting, the points leaders. And Mark has really flourished this year with his teammate Andy Lally. They've formed a great combination and have enjoyed success and atop the point standings at the halfway mark of the 2004 season. And let's catch up with his co-driver now. He's with Chris Neville.
Andy, you and Mark have been flying a little bit below the radar, I feel like, for the first half of the year, but now you're leading the championship. How important is it for you to win this championship this year in SGS?
Personally, for me, you know, it's something I want to achieve as far as a driver for TPC and myself. But I like what Grand Am's doing and try to move up the ranks, just like NASCAR does with their Busch guys, their Busch champions. Yeah, we want to secure the championship here and maybe step up a level of those DPs.
Well, he's been doing a lot of racing the past couple seasons. He's definitely looking at a DP for next year. Anything else you're going to be doing this weekend?
Well, I'm racing a Lexus here too for the Grand Am Cup. I'd like to take a quick word and say get well better to Lindy Davis, who got hurt real bad in a car accident this weekend. Just want to say hi to her and the family, Andrew, and hoping they're getting well. Yeah, the plans for next year are still up in the air. You know, I'm looking for everything I can do. So.
A little bit of action down with Calvin Fish.
Well, unfortunately, the number 9 car is in. Mike Borkowski behind the wheel, and there is a problem in the engine bay. He's lost power. A lot of smoke coming over from the left bank there as the mechanics go to work. Looked like I might have smoked something electrical. Got the ignition system over on the top, and I see some white powder, like maybe Mike has even hit the extinguisher button in the cockpit to put out the fire. So this is not good news for this team. They're really hoping for a strong result. We already talked about Paul Mears Jr. being very fast this weekend. They thought they definitely had a shot at top 5, if not a podium finish, Lee.
Yeah, that's very, very hard for those guys, and they've already lost one engine this weekend, so wonder if it's a recurring problem.
Well, actually, it tends to look like it.
Whoa!
Boy!
Is that our race-leading car? It is.
Yeah.
And that's the 37 TPC machine. And in that at the moment is John Littlechild.
Wow, and it looked like Mad Max had to almost get into the grass to avoid contact there. Good reflexes, great driving right there.
And look at this, it's allowed Wayne Taylor to come right up on the back of our race leader.
Absolutely it has.
The two at the top of the championship are the two in the top of the race. Pappas and Taylor going hard at it.
And Wayne taking a look to the inside. I don't think he's got enough. And surely Mad Max not going to give him that position.
Well, I'm sure we've got a replay of that. Let's take a look at it and see exactly what happened with John Littlechild and Max Pappas heading up towards the keyhole.
Wow, that's a funny place to spin right there, because that was on the, and he did go off quite hardly.
Big chunk of earth, sod coming out. On board with Pappas heading up to turn 1.
Now, when he hits, the splitter digs in, and it can do a lot of under-tray damage. Watch, he's going to have to go off the outside of the track to avoid this. And that because of the Porsche getting on the curb. Oh! Yeah, you didn't see it fly up, but we saw it from the outside. That really dug in.
What was impressive with Max there is he really settled, got on the brakes, stayed straight before he had to take a evasive action. But Taylor has really got some motivation now.
It was well outside of turn 1, and it was because the Porsche was up on the curb that spun it across. But Wayne, this is the closest he's been, without question. We know that car has shown superiority in braking. Well, haven't seen it so far in this race.
And with that Borkowski car coming in to pit lane, and actually it happened before Mike Borkowski brought the 9 in. Darren Law has been elevated to 3rd. Oz Negri is up to 4th. And Elliot Forbes Robinson in the Boss snowplow machine sits in the top 5. Let's get an update from the Ganassi pit. Cal.
Here with team manager Mike Carl. Looked like Max had to take evasive action there with the spinning race car. Any damage to the race car? What did he say on the radio, Mike?
Well, the best we can tell from here, our vantage point is probably not as good as yours. We think he's okay. Anytime in Mid-Ohio, there's 2 problems you have, grass and gravel. And if you go off the racetrack in either one, you fill up the front of the car. So we'll keep an eye on the engine temperatures and just keep after it here.
Okay, well, they certainly got a lot of experience there. We saw the 0-2 car with a similar problem. Now let's go down further in pit lane to Chris Neville.
Thanks, Cal. Down here with John Littlechild in the 37 Porsche, who was just in the midst of that incident with Max Pappas on the racetrack. He's coming in for fresh rubber. It looks like he did flat spot some tires, so they brought him in. He's going to get some new rubber and head back out.
So a scare for our race leader, and we will monitor that car because the front area of that front end of the CompUSA car filled with grass, Dorsey.
It has some, and it also has some tape on it, which means they've taped it down to make some temperature. Now that grass might aggravate it. Luckily, though, it's not as bad as I thought. When that spoiler digs in, it digs in a big cloud of you know, just like a big divot, and it can fly out completely. Oh my gosh.
The 38
Taylor
did not see Wayne Taylor coming. That was Mark Bunting. Did not see Wayne Taylor in his mirrors. And that, look how much that has advantaged Pappas. He has disappeared now. Boy, that was close.
Wayne will be fuming in there because he's worked so hard to try to get that position. And now he's going to have to work even more hard to get back to where he was.
This is what sports car racing is all about, different categories and different speed cars. And you do have the faster cars tearing through.
Now, look at this. He's going to catch Max is going to catch his Porsche in a bad place. You can't make a pass through here. So he's going to be held up. Well, the Porsche driver let it happen. That was nice.
Updating you further back in the field, Terry Borchella, last time we spoke to you was 15th. The reigning champion is now up into 11th and charging hard. Time to squeeze in a quick break from Mid-Ohio. Pappas still leads and has done right from the beginning. Stick around. The EMCO Gears Mid-Ohio Road Racing Classic continues here. And you look at the second place GT car of Boris Said, the PTG BMW M3, just had a bit of a nervous moment on the front stretch while we're in commercial break. Slowed here dramatically. This is right in front of where we're sitting at the moment, right in front of pit lane. And Boris Said was able to get going again. Chris Neville, do you have more on this?
Yeah, Lee, I just talked with Tom Milner, and he said the car just shut down. They don't know what happened, but Boris got it refired, so he didn't lose too much time. A little bit more of a gap between he and Bill right now, but he said, looks like everything's okay, but he said it with kind of a raised eyebrow. So questions down here about the 22.
Well, all these cars carry backup ignitions, so you can switch from an A ignition, which he would have been on, to the B, and I think that's probably what he's done. But the raised eyebrow from Milner, and you never know.
There you have it up front. Taylor's less than a second behind. Give a shout out to Tim McKenzie in the Acme Porsche, doing a great job. He sits third in that class, and there's your top three in SGS. Anxious moment for Mark Bunting recently. Meanwhile, the Mears Motor Coach machine, the Pontiac Riley, is back out on track, Carl.
They are back on track. They lost a lot of time, Lee, with that pit stop, and it was a coil pack gone bad and actually mellowed down a couple of the plug leads, so he lost power, and then they had to change that out. So Mike Gorkowski should have full power now. He'll put on a demon display, but certainly any real result is out of the question.
Yeah, he's dropped about 4 or 5 laps, back in 33rd position at the moment, but did have a good strong run up front. Second time in 2 races, Dorsey, we've seen them run at the right end of the field.
Yeah, that car and the drivers are doing really, really good job, but they were having some bad luck right there. That coil pack, you know, the days of distributor caps and all that are gone. These coil packs sit right up on top of where the spark plug lives, and to have one catch fire and melt down like that, you know, it's just bad luck.
Battle at the front. Max Pappas in the CompUSA Ganassi Riley, the Lexus powered machine, fighting his way past Boris Said. And the 37 of John Littlechild, and he's got Wayne Taylor, the South African, right in his mirrors. And Taylor, who got off to a slow start, what was your take on that, Dorsey?
I have to assume that he just missed a gear on the initial startup, because he went back about 3 or 4 positions, but once they got going, he's been working right back toward the front. Now watching the brakes, see if he can make up. He does make up a little ground here in the brakes, not a great deal like we've seen in the past, but still that car's suit. The strong suit is definitely downforce.
And the big news about the SunTrust team this weekend, if you've just joined us, Chris Neville addressed at the top of the show with Wayne Taylor, is that his regular co-driver, Max the Axe Angelelli, not here this weekend. Of course, he had to race his GM contract with the Cadillac CTSV in the Speed World Challenge up in Mosport. And that will affect him dramatically in the championship, because even if he came back as of next week at Watkins Glen and he and Taylor won every race for the rest of the season, and he would not be able to win the championship. When the teammates don't run, they get separated on points. And it could well be that Pappas and Pruitt are the only 2 at the top of this field that stay on the same points level. Meanwhile, Pappas has got a fight on his hands here.
Yeah, he does indeed. Wayne's setting sights on him right now. In this lap traffic, you got to play this racetrack like a chess match. You got to look way up ahead and see what's coming, you know, so you don't get bottlenecked in behind some of these cars that are racing for position.
4 different manufacturers, chassis manufacturers in the top 5 positions. You've got Riley 1 and 2. You've got a Fab car sitting 3rd, a Doran, and then you pick up a Crawford. Battle here in the SGS class.
And this is about how far they've been apart the entire race. These guys really, really going at it. Chris can help us with 41. Chris?
Well, the Nonmakers have been having a pretty good weekend. The past few races, they've been doing really well, and they've been involved in Grand Am racing for quite a while right now. And this weekend, they're looking for their 50th win and their 150th podium. So these guys have been involved in the series for quite a while. And the past few weekends, they've been coming back to the front. So hopefully they'll, after that points infraction, they can work that car back to the front.
And guess what? Another local team. They're Ohio-based. And a very special track here and a very special weekend for them. Wayne Nonamaker draws alongside Mark Bunting and has the run. He got through turn one beautifully.
He nailed turn one, just absolutely nailed it perfectly and carried all that momentum. Makes the pass cleanly.
It was an anxious moment for his dad, Joe, at the beginning of the race coming through turn one when he spun and then reversed across the track. But for Wayne, things going beautifully. New race leader in the SGS class. Almost 30 laps down here already, and Wayne dived for the inside line.
Yeah, he's not going to give that up. He had to work too hard to get that position.
And these are the two teams fighting it out at the top of the Super Grand Sport class. Wayne Nonamaker, our most recent winner. We go to the break, showing you our top 5 in our 3 respective classes. Stick around. More from Mid-Ohio in a few minutes. Spinner there, and it's one of the BMWs, as Boris said, in the 22, has gone around. He'd just been overtaken by race leader Max Pappas.
That's uncharacteristic.
And look at the damage on the side there.
I'm about to say, right above that flame right there, you see somebody's got into the side with a tire, which I would think probably helped Boris around because it doesn't spin out much on his own.
No, Boris is not a crasher. And finally gets going again. At the front of this field, there is an enthralling battle between Pappas and Wayne Taylor. Darren Law maintains his third. Elliot Forbes Robinson is having an outstanding run in fourth in the Howard Boss Motorsports machine. Here's our overall race leader, Max Pappas. This Mid-Ohio circuit, very special to him, of course, from his days with Ray Hall in Champ Car Racing. He lived here for a while in Columbus. And Wayne Taylor, there's second. Long gap back. We're waiting for third place, the 58 Red Bull Brumos machine, to come around. And that just goes to show you how hard those guys are pushing it at the front. There's Darren Law maintaining his third spot, but he is some 17 seconds back. Then we get a good run on here. EFR. Then it's the 6 for Oswaldo Negri Jr. And Aussie's trying to stay with the FR. That's your top 5. I said earlier, it's been a great run from EFR. Calvin has more.
Well, we talked about numbers earlier in the show with the 01 and the 10 going at it. We certainly have a great number 4 there. As car number 4, they're running fourth, and for the last 3 races, they've finished fourth. But they've also been getting great fuel economy with that Crawford. But the main concern here is that everyone is running the softer 370 Goodyear compound in the Daytona prototype. And I spoke to EFR last evening. He said, we're getting great fuel economy, but with this racetrack, it really loads up that left front tire, or we may have to stop to change the tire before we actually get through that full fuel load.
Now, if that were the case, that would be a really bad deal for them to not be able to run the full fuel load out. But this place, they've just changed the racetrack right recently. They've taken these concrete patches and they've ground them off, and in doing so left little bitty ruts through there, and they just chew the tires something fierce. Wow,
almost contact here. The 59 and the 7 going hard at it. That's JC France in the 59 Brumos machine, and Shane Lewis on board the Southern Motorsports BMW Fab car.
Sounds a little off on the song there. Doesn't sound like it's hitting on one of them. Oh, and he's made a mistake. Almost goes off the racetrack. Got in too deep. Either that or that Corvette that just went by helped him along there. One or the other.
I think Shane's got his hands full with some problems there.
Another thing can make the engine sound like that is if you have one of the exhaust header pipes break, but it definitely sounds flat.
One of the few teams that did not go testing in the Daytona prototype ranks, and that may have hurt the team as far as the development of this machine. Let's see if Shane Lewis can get back up to speed.
They've really struggled this whole year, really. I mean, they've been in some accidents that weren't their fault and so forth. Chris, you got something on the 7?
Yeah, Dorsey, I just talked with Steve Southern down here, and it sounds like the throttle's stuck on the 7, so Shane ended up having to shut the car down. So right now he's just trying to get it refired to see if he can make his way back to pit lane and have these guys sort out the situation.
Well, he just went by pit lane, actually. We're right on board right there with Shane. He never really did shut it off. Yeah, you know what? I was talking about the bad luck that this car has had all year long. Well, let's take a look at what happened to him in Daytona.
Well, this is actually the Terry Borchella incident.
Yeah, it was the big incident.
Involving the G&W machine. There's Kurt Wagner, and it got pretty hot down there between these two. Kurt Wagner in the ambulance, Terry Borchella on the outside.
They're still like that at each other. They're mad at each other till right now. I talked to both of these drivers. I said, look, guys, you know, let it go.
Back on board with Terry Borchella now as he continues to charge his way, trying to break into the top 10. He's got Milka Duno, the next on his list, and he's only about 2.5 seconds behind her, so he'll be chasing hard. And as usual, Andy Wallace will take over that number 2, Sitco Crawford from Milka Duno when they come into pit. And there they are on track. Well, of course, that was the big talking point after the Paul Revere at Daytona. We haven't heard from the boys. We couldn't get hold of them down there. Let's hear from Kurt Wagner on his take of that incident.
Lee, just to update you on the 81, Brent Martini has got the car back out on track, so these guys are in better shape. They're down quite a few laps, but they are back out on track. Court, looking back at Daytona, obviously some significant contact with Terry Borchella. What happened from your perspective?
You know, I don't really want to get into who was right or who was wrong, but, you know, nobody likes accidents. Nobody likes hurting a race car, you know. I personally don't want to hurt an RX.com race car. These guys are so good. The car runs so good. I don't really want to get into who's right or who's wrong, but, you know, there was a pretty big contact, and all I thought was when I hit the wall, you know, we got pinched off, and it was just a bad situation, you know. I mean, we came together, let's just say that. I'll leave it at that. But I thought, wow, this is the big one, 185 miles an hour, and here Terry and I go flying down the track sideways backwards, but it came out great. The cars are really strong. Doran builds a great race car, you know, Dyden Power. These guys, great motor, great effort. I mean, I can't thank them enough, you know, but we got the car back together. G&W Motorsports did such an amazing job getting the car back together in 1 week, and we tested the next week after that in Virginia, and the car was great. So we're just really happy. It just shows the strength of this motorsports team.
Yeah, I think the big thing about that crash that we saw, two impacts there, and both drivers were okay. So that was the big thing there, Lee.
Race car drivers make me laugh sometimes. Kurt Wagner was no way that diplomatic when he was sitting in the ambulance, nor was he that diplomatic when we saw him for dinner up at Lime Rock Park, and nor was Terry Borchella either. But anyway, those guys have calmed down a little bit, but it's still on their minds. Meanwhile, back at the front, Wayne Taylor in the SunTrust Riley has not let Max Pappas get away whatsoever. These two are right at it. This is for the lead of the race, and Max Pappas has led from the green. Taylor now sets him up on the inside. Nice move.
There's the braking ability we've seen that car use all year long, but it didn't always go this good. About a lap ago, take a look at what happened. Same place, up into the keyhole, and no, actually,
down in the fourth.
Yeah, the back straightaway, and we lock up big time. You got to watch that. You flat spot the front tires and you'll be coming in, but I don't think he did any damage there.
For the first time in the race, the Italian sits second. Max Pappas, it's now his turn to respond. And I think he saw Taylor coming through pretty hot and heavy on the brakes, so he had some pretty good judgment, gave him nice racing room, and Wayne Taylor and the SunTrust Riley now leads the way. What has the Lexus-powered machine got in store? We'll find out when we return.
Welcome back to the EMCO Gears Road Racing Classic here at Mid-Ohio. Number 2 car driven by Milka Duno currently is still on the lead lap. She's been doing a great job this weekend, and Andy Wallace flew in here this morning. And Andy, you're immediately on the pace. Second fastest in the warm-up. You're looking at the lap monitor right now. If Milka can keep this car on the lead lap, is there a chance you can repeat that victory you had at Homestead earlier in the season?
I'm certainly going to give it a go, that's for sure. She's radioed in that the car's losing a bit of grip from the tyres at the moment. So I think in a few more laps we're going to do a driver change and change tyres.
That was a concern. Everyone's running the 370 Goodyear tyre this weekend. It's a little bit soft, and you guys seem to be overloading that left front a little bit with the configuration of this racetrack, so you're going to have to certainly change tyres each stint, I assume. Yeah,
it's definitely going to be tyres rather than a fuel stop, actually. I mean, we need fuel, but we don't need a whole tank to get to the end on the second stop. So yeah, you're right, it's tyres, but if you go to the harder tyre, it's slower, so this is why everybody went this way.
Okay, well, he's certainly pumped up, he's ready to go. Hopefully they can get a break here with a yellow, or everyone pits at the same time and he gets to go charging to the front, Lee.
We look forward to seeing Andy in the car, and some news on Milka Duno recently. She just signed to appear in Pontiac's largest Hispanic marketing campaign ever, and will be promoting the new Pontiac G6 sports sedan. and that starts this fall. Very, very popular in the Hispanic community, and especially after that historic win at Homestead earlier this year. And she's handling herself well in the DP cars.
Yeah, she's not getting in any trouble, and that's the important thing. I mean, she's not maybe as quick as an Andy Wallace, but as long as she can do her job and get going, she'll be doing fine.
GT race leading car, Bill Aublin on pit road. Chris.
Yeah, Bill brought it in for a quick splash of fuel, 4 new tires, and sent him back out. This was a scheduled stop, so nothing unusual down here. Justin Marks did not get in the car.
And Justin picking up his first Rolex Series victory at the Paul Revere. Pretty excited about that. Meanwhile, there's the sister car just whipping by. Carl, what do you have?
Well, Mike Borkowski has come in and he's turned it over to Paul Mears Jr. Last time he went by, there was another misfire with his engine, but I think they've rectified that and they got Paul behind the wheel there for many laps down, so a little disappointing.
As they fire up the Mears motor, Coach Riley, and get back at it. We ride with the 0-1. Whoa, that is the 54. Terry Borchella is in the sand trap.
And that might bring out a caution. It probably will, because he will be stuck.
That looks like it was at the carousel.
Whatever was going on, it broke completely. The car snapped instantly sideways, and I'm off.
Terry Borchella there saying whatever broke, I don't know what it was, but the car broke instantly, broke sideways instantly, and I was gone.
So maybe a suspension failure.
In fact, that's up at turn 9, Dorsey, isn't it? Right before Thunder Valley. Let's take a look at the replay and see if we can decipher what happened here.
Well, he got really loose right there. He did one correction, but that's all he got. Now he's in the gravel trap. Didn't look like any of the suspension broke. Here's onboard, listen.
Something a little strange, wasn't it? Otherwise it would have kept going. Plenty of action on pit road. We are under full course caution, Chris.
Wayne Taylor brought the SunTrust number 10 Pontiac Riley to pit lane. Now he's given it over to Emmanuel Collard. Collard has driven with the team 2 other times this year, once at Mont Tremblant, once at the 24-hour race, so he knows this car very well. The team looks like they're getting a good pit stop done right now. No problems on the pit stop. They were practicing earlier and had some problems, but this one looks really smooth. Calvin, you're up with the 0-1.
0-1 car is in, and unfortunately, well, I find it strange that they've actually got Scott Pruitt in here. There was talk of Max doing a double stint with Scotty having those rib injuries, but he's underway. The team did a tire change, and he actually beat the 10 car out of the pit, which is rather important, of course.
Nice work from the CompUSA Ganassi team. The sister car is in there as well. Pruitt on board, and Emmanuel Collard, the world-class Frenchman. It's time to redeem himself after making that error at Mont Tremblant. Calvin.
Well, another car that's having a great run here this afternoon is the Brumos number 58, David Donahue, behind the wheel now. He had to come in at a weird angle here, so the team would try to work him around. They got moved up wheel, and he beats the 4 car out barely, side by side. Now the 4 car gets it. Let's go down to Chris.
Calvin, down here with the 09 car. This team has really turned around this week, and they're running P6 right now. This is Stefan Gregoire and Doug Goad. These guys have had a lot of trouble with this car, but with all the testing they've done with Daytona, they really feel comfortable with it now, and they're looking to turn the second half of the season around.
They fire it up and away they go. The spirit of Daytona boys. Back at Mid-Ohio and back in time to see the green fly. We go racing, and up front it's Scott Pruitt fending off Emmanuel Collard. David Donahue sits third. He's taken over from Darren Law, and it will begin the chase with the 2 Rileys up front. The lead car is a Lexus power plant. Second place, the Black Bomber, the SunTrust machine, is Pontiac powered.
It all looks pretty much the same, but it's not the same as all the new drivers are in there now. These are the first laps for these guys today. So let's see what goes on.
And remember the big talking point here, Scott Pruitt, straight over from the Brickyard, doing the Brickyard 400 this weekend. Big crash yesterday. He's injured, hurt his ribs quite badly, as he told Calvin at the top of the show. Has not been in this car all weekend, and now slots himself in. So it's new stuff, fresh stuff. Meanwhile, Collard has had plenty of laps.
And it is a bit of a surprise to me that they put Pruitt in and didn't double stint Mad Max, because he is injured somewhat. He said at the beginning of the show he's got bruises all over, hurt ribs, and this place beats you around with these drop-offs like the one you just saw right there. This little corner right here, when you go over that little jolt right there, really hurts you.
Hey, guess who's coming? Butch Leitzinger. Here he comes in the 4. Look, he is right behind Emmanuel Collard. He's got by David Donahue. In fact, the 4 beat them out of the pits And there he is. Donohue's a little further back. We'll see what kind of progress Leitzinger can make, because this is encouraging.
We can't emphasize enough the race is in the pits nowadays with these prototypes. These guys are making and losing positions on these pit stops.
So crucial, and that's what makes it a team sport, because the boys in the pits,
on
the rattle grums.
We got a spin on the exit of turn 1, one of the prototypes. I think it was the 6.
And it is the 6.
And they've had contact with another car now. I think maybe the BMW, I'm not sure of that.
And Bert Frizzell, who had taken over from Oswaldo Negri. Huge weekend for Michael Shank Racing, and their day is done.
Yeah, I saw that just out of the tunnel. That's weird right there. It has no wheel nut on it. I saw a spin. Did the wheel fall off? I think it did.
Yeah, the whole right side.
I think the right rear might have come off that car. We saw the tire rolling in the wheel. Obviously it is.
We did hear a report that the 22 BMW, PTG BMW, was involved in that as well. Let's have a look at the replay, see if we can find out a little more of this incident. Turn 1.
Well, it's already kind of, there goes the wheel. It's definitely the wheel that set that in motion. The right rear comes off in turn 1. The 22, I think.
In fact, it could also be the O2. It looked like the sister Ganassi car was in there as well. So it was one of the Ganassi cars, one of the BMW cars, and it certainly wasn't the lead Ganassi. So it was the 02 and the 22, and there is a very wounded Lexus Doran.
And obviously on the pit stop, someone did not get the right rear tire and wheel affixed properly.
Well, we are now into our 3rd full course caution. Our 2nd full course caution was for the Terry Borcheller incident, and he's going to explain it to Calvin Fish.
Been a tough day for Terry. He's the defending champion here, of course, defending series champion. And Terry, the day got off to a bad start. You wanted to do a driver change at the last second. The series would not allow you to do that. Forrest started, you got behind the wheel, you got on a charge. Then what happened?
Yeah, that actually worked out pretty good with the yellow coming in the way it did, and Forrest did good on the start. But it looks like we've got a failure with the steering rack. I was coming down into turn 8 and I went to touch the brake and the car went immediately left, and I was pretty much along for the ride, and it looks like they said the steering rack's, something's broke inside, so that's good news. I mean, I knew something happened because it was like the steering just got yanked out of my hand and the car went 90 degrees to the left. So
you've been working on a new power steering system with the car. Did that have any effect on the problem here?
I don't really know, Calvin. You know, I'm jumping back and forth with Motorsport, so I haven't been here a lot, but I'm not sure. I've never experienced anything like that before, and it was, I'm just glad it happened where it did. Thankfully, there was a gravel trap there.
You went back out there. Did they have to beat on you pretty hard to make you go out pit lane again?
I wanted to know what they found. I didn't want to go back out, but they didn't find anything, and sure enough, you know, on my first turn, I almost looped it again, so I'm like, I'm not going to drive this, and looks like they just found it, so that's good. It's, you know, it's racing. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. This is a hard one for the team, though. They've worked hard.
They'll bounce back strong. In fact, they have Oliver Gavin actually co-driving with Terry Borcheller just next week at Watkins Glen on Friday night, guys.
We look forward to seeing Ollie in the Daytona prototype car, so the day done for the man who won here last year, and this is the reason why we're under yellow. Bert Frizzell, who had just taken over from Oswaldo Negri. Look at him, he's pretty active in the cockpit there saying, help us, let me get back to pit lane so we can continue our charge.
We're a one-stop shop, from gear drives that run the camshafts and oil pumps and things on the front of the engine to the final drive at the ring and pinion at the back of the race car. We can fill any gearing need from front to back of the race car.
At Doran Enterprises, we chose EMCO because of their history in motorsports. It's American made, they've got good reliability, fantastic service, and it's been a really good product for us.
I can tell you personally that we have ring and pinions here that have 5,000 racing miles on them, and we took them out because we thought we ought to. They're not cracked, nothing's wrong with them. So the product is even better than it's ever been, and I've seen it in 10 years.
All the cars that I've driven in the past, especially long distance cars, have had really heavy synchronized gearboxes where you have to shift through each gate very carefully, very slowly. But with the EMCO gearbox, it's a sequential gearbox, and it's very light to the touch, so it's fantastic. We've got flat shift on it, so we never lift our foot off the throttle, and it's been super, super reliable. So I have absolutely no complaints. I love the gearbox.
And it's wonderful to have EMCO as the naming rights sponsor for this event, the Mid-Ohio Road Racing Classic, and a company that's certainly steeped in motorsport history way back to 1964. Let's get an update on the reason why we're under this third full course caution. It is the Michael Shank number 6, and Calvin has more.
Well, the car has finally made its way back to pit lane. It's lost 5 or 6 laps, Lee, unfortunately, and it looked like it simply just didn't get tight. There's no damage to the hub. We saw the wheel come back a short while ago in another pickup truck. There looked like no damage to the wheel rim itself. So this is a major disappointment. Ozzy's certainly been fast all year, but Frizella's had flashes of brilliance, and this is one track that he's driven at. The only other two are Mont Tremblant and California that we head to later in the year, but hopefully we'll see them then. They only have funding right now through Watkins Glen the next round, Lee.
And I really, really hope that there is somebody out there that's been impressed with those guys to give them some support. We go back to racing and the chase begins, and look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many do you like to name? Wallace making a move further back in the pack, but it's Pruitt who leads them through one.
I was going to tell you, don't forget about Andy Wallace. Now he's in that car and he's going to drive it right up to the front as well. Pruitt right now with the lead, but not for long, I don't think.
Leitzinger has Donahue with him. Then it's the 0-2 machine, the second Ganassi car with Luis Diaz on board. There's Court Wagner in the RX.com G&W machine, but we get back to it, and Hurley Hayward has taken over. Young Ben Leuenberger is in the Doran Lister machine, but back up front, here is Leitzinger on the inside, down on the inside of Emmanuel Collard. The car wiggles under braking, and he's through.
And we see smoke from Pruitt's car locking up a brake up ahead, or locking a tire up. So that was pretty amazing. The number 10 car, which has been superior under braking, getting past right there by Butch Leitzinger.
Butch Leitzinger, who won here in 2002 in Trans Am, runs well at this circuit, and he is all pumped up here. They have not been on the podium in this car yet. 3 consecutive 4th placings. It's time for a podium, and the time could be now.
I tell you what, if Andy Wallace can get back up there, these guys are teammates on the other side of the pond as well. So they're going to be a tough duo.
Riding with David Donahue. David was engaged in a fierce battle for victory last year here in Mid-Ohio with Terry Borchella. And the Red Bull Brumos machine is right in the thick of it now.
You see the sun, how it affects on the windshield right here when you head toward turn 1. It gets really hard. Turn 1's a blind corner anyway, but when you're looking straight into the sun, it's not fun at all.
Look out for the 2, the Sitco Crawford. Andy Wallace is the man on the move at the moment. He's sizing up Luis Diaz. Look for the inside line into the keyhole. Here comes Andy. Is he close enough? Yes, he is.
Absolutely is. Sticks it in there, gets through cleanly, and now making a move, trying to get by the Porsche.
This is Homestead all over again. Milka Duno, his teammate, did exactly what she did at Homestead. She stayed out of trouble. She's not the fastest driver on the racetrack. We know that, but she was careful and clever, and then she hands it over to her quicker teammate, and he brings it home, and that's what he's doing right now.
Now we're in a cat fight. Now it gets serious because these 3 guys all really putting pressure up there on Emmanuel. Has not been in this car as often as all these other guys have been in their cars.
On board with Donahue. He's got a mirror full of Andy Wallace. There's Wallace. Luis Diaz is not letting him slip away either. It's Brumos, Crawford, the Howard Boss team, and the Comp USA Ganassi 0-2.
3 different chassis and 3 different engine manufacturers in those 3 cars. Look how equal they are.
And Collard is the man in the hot seat, fighting them off for that 3rd spot, that final step on the podium. We're into the latter half of this race. Just an hour and 12 minutes left to run, and problems for Paul Mears and the Mears motor coach Riley.
We've seen electrical problems on this, and I think that's probably what's happened with Paul. He's pulled safely off the outside of the track. I wish he was to the inside, but he's off the track. I think it's just shut down on him again.
Race leader Scott Pruitt has 1.7 seconds over the 4. The Boss snowplow machine of Leitzinger. Then it's Collard, then it's Donahue, Wallace in the 2, and Luis Diaz. Your top 6 going hard at it like you wouldn't believe. Now they stretch their legs. Watch the Sitco machine. It's quick in a straight line, but the Porsche had the top speed this weekend.
It did indeed. That Porsche had the fastest trap speed at the other end here. And look here, going to try and make it 3.
And Donahue they go, 2 in 1.
And both of them get by Manuel.
Collard goes 3rd to 5th, and we're under yellow again. We are under a full course caution for the 4th time. I'm not sure as to why. We'll find out.
Well, surely it's going to be to pick that car up right there, the Mears car, which, like I said, is on the outside of a really fast corner.
Back at Mid-Ohio, the EMCO Gears Mid-Ohio Road Racing Classic continues. Lee Diffie and Dorsey Schrader here with you in the booth. And Calvin Fish and Chris Neville on pit lane. We have got an exciting race on our hands. Back to green. Caution is done. And let's see who can do the business the best. It's Scott Pruitt who leads the way from Butch Leitzinger and David Donahue.
I'll tell you what, these Crawfords of Leitzinger and Andy Wallace, don't forget about him. They look awfully strong all of a sudden to me. I think that there's going to be a new leader in town.
Enormous workload from those guys at VIR during this break. with Max Crawford, Max and Jan Crawford, the whole team working incredibly hard, particularly on some aero tweaks with that car. The car's been into the wind tunnel since then, and they have been working on developing it, making it quicker and quicker. And speaking of being quicker, here comes Andy Wallace now. Look at him on the inside, deep on the brakes, and gets on through up into third. He has made very quick progress.
That was a great out-braking maneuver right there. I think he actually broke the first time, took his foot back off the brake, and got alongside, and then Wayne re-brake again. Andy really did a good job right there.
One of the many drivers doing double duty this weekend, back and forth from Canada, and he is in the zone right now at Mid-Ohio. The British driver zeroing in on his teammate, the sister Howard Boss Motorsport car. These Pontiac Crawfords are flying.
And Andy hasn't had laps around in this car, so when he came in this morning, the setup had to be perfect. And Max must have really had it on the money.
Wallace will again team with Nextel Cup star and former champion Tony Stewart in a week's time at Watkins Glen on the short course up there. We'll look forward to seeing the 20 car back at it.
And these guys in lap traffic already, starting to get into between these Porsches, can really make a difference. It's hard to pass here.
Really pleasing to see the 09 Spirit of Daytona prototype up there. Doug Gove behind the wheel now after taking over from Stefan Gregoire. And these guys are having a good, solid, strong run. Chris?
That's right, Lee. Another Crawford team making some big gains this week. Stefan, you and Doug have been a little bit disheartened the past few races, but lots of testing this past stint between Daytona and now. Cars really come to life. You've got to be excited.
Yeah, very happy actually. The Crawford team did a lot of work. We didn't do any testing ourselves, the team itself, but Crawford, the other guys did a lot of testing. They went to the wind tunnel, and obviously this weekend it seems to pay off. So hard work always pays off, seems like.
Well, Max Crawford is really sharing all the information that he's learning not only on the racetrack but in the wind tunnel with all the other teams that have purchased his cars.
These guys have had 2 top 10s so far in the previous 6 races, and they are looking to score their highest result here today since forming that Daytona prototype team earlier this year. Troy Fliss and the guys doing a wonderful job. Doug Goad, of course, making the step up from Grand Am Cup Series racing last year, back up into the Rolex Series, and thoroughly enjoying himself. The SunTrust car is about to go a lap down.
That is a shame for that car right now. If it is in fact on 7 cylinders, it won't take these guys long to gobble them up. Nice to hear from Max Crawford that he has orders for 3 more cars to be built. So that team run by his family and all his guys, that's really good news for them. As well as talking to Bill Riley, they have 13 some odd cars under construction.
Here's an interesting statistical graphic for you as we see the 10 and the 01 championship rivals. And keep in mind that these statistics include the Rolex 24 at Daytona. But the 01 certainly holding the upper hand. They do share the same amount of victories, however.
Boy, Manuel Collard doing the best he can do just to try and stay out front. He wants a caution right now is what he needs to get back around to the tail before he gets gobbled up here by Pruitt.
The roar of the Lexus.
Again, Scott Pruitt driving injured after his crash at Indy. Some sore ribs, and this place is bumpier than it looks. You can see right here all this elevation change takes a toll on your body. You get pummeled around and they're pretty good.
We see this scrap at the front. Updating you on our other classes, our other 2 classes. Justin Marks doing a wonderful job in GT. He leads the way in SGS. It remains Wayne Nonamaker in the 41 Planet Earth Motorsports Porsche. Collard is under siege here. He needs to try and stay on the lead lap. At the moment, we've got some 8 and 9 cars on the lead lap. Wonderful stuff here in Mid-Ohio.
Well, I'm not really sure that he's down to 7 cylinders. Well, no, right now, because here's the long straightaway. Oh, yeah, he's going to get gobbled up, no doubt about it.
Oh, he almost ran Scott Pruitt off the track.
Oh, that's a big accident when you go off there, let me tell you that. You get in the grass there, it's all over.
Pruitt's like, no thanks, I had enough at the Brickyard yesterday.
Woo. Man, oh man.
That was almost a big incident. Let's have a look at that from our outside camera view. That was scary stuff.
Understanding this all happening at over 140 mile per hour, probably 145 by that point. Right here, the squeeze play. Ooh. You see the corner worker was looking. His eyes were big.
That got Scott's attention very quickly.
Oh, yeah, it did.
So the SunTrust car goes down a lap. And I'm wondering if that just caught Collard a little bit by surprise, because he doesn't drive like that.
Well, it might have. He just might not have known the run coming at him like that. But that is a very tenuous place in that straightaway. It's flat out, easily done flat out, but that little kink there, you know, can catch you off.
And number 2 is in position, number 2. Wallace has gone by Butch Leitzinger, and there is no stopping Andy Wallace. He is flying. Let's hear from Milka Duno, his co-driver.
Milka, Andy is on the charge. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on you to get the job done in that opening stint, keep the car on the lead lap. You did that today, and now you sit and watch Andy. How does it feel again?
Yes, I feel very well because we have a very hard work. The team made a fantastic job with the car. Andy now is in position 2nd. I leave the car in position 9. And I have the pressure all the time. Master me, push Milka, push Milka, push Milka. And I was doing, I'm happy because we are close to the podium again.
Fantastic job today. It's a great run for you.
Oh, thank you.
He's pumped up, and Andy Wallace is on the charge. He is driving really well the last couple of months, Lee.
2.4 seconds between Pruitt and this man here, the flying Brit, Andy Wallace. We'll see if he can reel him in. He needs to get by the lap car of Emmanuel Collard first.
Kind of sounds like driving a race car is like having a baby or something. All that pushing going on.
Well, they've had 2 podiums, a win and a 3rd, and that was in the first 2 races of the season. It's been a 12th, a 5th, a 7th, and a 6th since then.
Andy
so some
Wallace.
lean times, but Andy's about to turn it round.
Andy was my teammate several times actually. He's a guy that can get the job done. When you put the bit between his teeth and tell him get after it, buddy, he can get the job done.
One of the funniest guys in the paddock too. He's got such a dry sense of humor. Here's the split here as Scott Pruitt sits out in front, and they are in search of their 3rd victory of the season. Back-to-back wins in the 2 6 hours at Mont Tremblant and at Watkins Glen. The SunTrust boys won at Daytona, but Ganassi, they're about to bounce back. Back at it, and the BMW boys, strong day, especially for the 21. Justin Marks, the young Californian, leads the GT class at the moment and leads very well after taking over from Bill Oberlin. He had an anxious moment. And an anxious moment for the 21. And Bill Oberlin rather still in the car. I apologize there.
Actually got loose coming out of the keyhole about midway down through the corner and just had to chase it out to the outside. Went up over the top of the curb. Didn't do any damage though.
Great race car, the M3, the PTG M3. Staying with the GT class, and the 77 car has had a driver change. Spencer Pumpelly is now on board. It's running 2nd behind the 21 and ahead of the 22. The Boris said Joey Hand entry. Joey behind the wheel now. There is the 77 G&W machine. Good strong run for these guys, Chris.
Yeah, Lee, these guys are pretty excited down here. They've been trying to put together that program with Spencer Pumpelly and Mark Greenberg for quite a while. Mark has had a little bit of experience in professional racing. We've definitely seen Spencer do very well in these Porsches. So they're excited. They're going to run the rest of the year in that car. So obviously, we're going to see them put some pressure on the BMWs and hopefully grab a win here soon.
From the 77 to the 22, it runs 3rd in the class. We heard from Joey Hand earlier. There is the 2nd PTG BMW.
Of course, that's the BMW that keeps shutting off. We heard Boris said allude to the fact that it just shuts off. They have to turn off the computer, turn the ignition off, recycle the computer system, turn it back on, and that's cost them all this time.
Up front, we hear reports that there's a problem with the 4. The Howard Boss Motorsport. Oh, look, there is a problem. It's got no front end.
Looks like a dirt modified here. No front end whatsoever.
And there was contact with a slower car. We hear that we have a replay. Let's take a look at this. What happened to Butch Leitzinger?
Oh, it's already happened right before we got on there.
It's the Orbit Porsche.
Oh, and he hits it in the back, too. Now, that car with no nose on it's going to lose all of its front downforce, and she'll probably be... Take a look at the radiator. No damage to that, but it looks like it's moving around a little bit under braking. there'll definitely be some understeer in this car. Calvin, you got some?
Well, they're going to have to come in and change the nose cone on the 4 machine, and this really throws their strategy out. We talked about the superior economy that the Pontiac Crawford seems to get. It's not as draggy with the car. It has a little better aerodynamics, and they said they could go the rest of the distance. The main concern was tires. With the tires last, we spoke to Ganassi. They definitely have to stop, so they were on board here to actually overcome the 01 car by just staying on track, but certainly Butch has to pit. Now it's up to Randy Wallace in the 2 machine to try and bring it home. So tires and fuel is going to be a strategy during this last hour, Dorsey.
You know, right now, if you're Andy Wallace, you know, and the crew chief, Max would be telling them as we see the 4 come in toward you, Calvin.
Okay, he's going to make his way down here. Hopefully the clip didn't damage anything else, but certainly he's losing a lot of downforce. And Butch Lexinger comes down pit lane. The crew is ready for him. I'm not sure if they'll take an opportunity to just top him up with fuel. They will. They're going to go to rear tires, certainly. I don't see any front tires. Yeah, now they're going fronts as well. So it'll be a tire change, fuel. They shouldn't need a full fuel tank load because that'll just slow him down. But I see the fuel is still connected and the nose cone is at the ready. So this should be pretty routine for these boys. They've been in these situations before, and they'll get back on track.
Just when it was going good. How frustrating. Leitzinger was in a very solid 3rd place. It was Mike Fitzgerald he came into contact with in the Orbit Porsche. And the GNW 81, the RX.com car is in. Chris?
That's right, Lee. Brent Martini has brought the RX.com car into pit lane. They're just going to do fuel, tires, and they're finally going to put Court Wagner in this car. They were kind of going a couple different strategies here. They obviously are down quite a few laps. They wanted Brent to get some more laps in the car. Obviously, the more laps he has, the better they're going to do in the latter half of the year. But they've got to get Court in the car now because he's also got championship points he's concerned about. So they're going to get Court in. He's going to get his points. Then they're going to get back out there and hopefully try and finish up the day with somewhat of a good result.
And as he is released, problems here continue for Mike Fitzgerald in the Classic Industries Porsche. The Orbit boys, boy.
He's got significant damage to the right rear suspension of that car. You can't see it from here, but the right rear is really knocked around.
Lead margin to the 01 Comp USA Riley. Scott Pruitt has a 5.7-second margin over Andy Wallace, and that's what it looks like.
However, if this fuel mileage strategy plays out, this car, the number 2 of Andy Wallace, does not need to stop, and the other car will need to stop. Pruitt's car will have to come in for fuel. If that's the case, you could be telling Andy right now, not maybe to push quite so hard. You know, go ahead and conserve a little bit, shift a little bit less RPM if you've got that much in hand.
They're running very similar lap times at the moment in the mid-122 range as Pruitt comes up on some traffic. And the countdown clock, as you can see, we've almost hit the 2-hour mark. It's been an eventful race, some 4 full course cautions, all for Daytona prototypes, we might add. Brent Martini, the first one after he was contacted by a Porsche. Terry Borchella spun off with some steering problems. Bert Frizzell lost a right rear. And most recently, Paul Mears Jr., his Riley came to a halt right on the edge of the circuit.
Well, Scott Pruitt would love to have a caution flag that lasts for quite a while so he can get that fuel mileage up.
Meanwhile, Wallace remains in pursuit. Tremendous day, great run for the 58 Red Bull Brumos Porsche. It sits 3rd with David Donahue at the wheel, and look who's 4th. Doug Go. That's as high as we've seen the Spirit of Daytona Crawford. Fingers crossed for those boys, they can keep that strong run going. Back at Mid-Ohio, great run by the Spark of Georgia Tech team. Chris Hall, Larry Huang, and they too have adopted the new aerodynamic tweaks from Crawford race cars. Since the VIR test, they were present at that test. Learn a lot. Larry Huang is getting a lot more comfortable with this car. And they too send out their best wishes to Andrew Davis's wife, Lindy. Andrew Davis is a valued member of the Rolex sports car family, and Lindy, his wife, involved in a pretty serious auto accident the other day in the Atlanta area, and we wish Andrew, Lindy and the family all the best and wish her a speedy recovery. But these guys having a very solid performance today in the 39 sits 7th, and if they can remain there, that would do a lot to give them their best result in their Daytona prototype career. Chris Hall behind the wheel. Meanwhile, day is done for Mike Fitzgerald and the Policastros. Chris can tell us more.
Lee, I just checked in with Roger Hawley, crew chief on the 44. This team was really excited about this weekend because they went and they did a shaker test on that Porsche, and they learned a lot. Actually, Mike Fitzgerald said the car is better than it's ever been. However, it looks like he had some contact with one of the Daytona prototypes out on the racetrack, has significant damage to the right side of the car, and they're unsure if he can get it back to pit lane right now. They're still talking with him, trying to get it back here, but it looks like their day's going to be done.
And to update you, this is the car that did contact Mike Fitzgerald, and Calvin told us while we're in the break it was a very lengthy pit stop, and as such, Butch Leitzinger has now dropped to 13th place and several laps down after being as high as second in the race.
And we should say that Mike Fitzgerald, where that Porsche was sitting when we saw him there, they backed that car there, didn't actually crash there at all, but he backed it in behind a wall where it's in a safe area, but the right rear is definitely done.
5 seconds. It was as high as 7.5, so it's down to 5.1 now, the lead margin. Pruitt to Wallace. Ganassi to Howard Boss.
And even though the Crawford has the fuel mileage advantage, what we hear is it's not got a good advantage in the tire wear department. The front tire of the car that Andy Wallace is driving will not make it probably to the end of the fuel stint, so they're going to have to bring that car in for tires, not for fuel.
Biggest movers graphic. Take a look at this. The two, Sitco Crawford, Andy Wallace, Milka Duno, have elevated themselves 10 positions from their start spot of 12th. Great work there. Doug Goad and Stefan Gregoire, that's one of the other big stories today. They maintain their 4th spot, gaining 5 from their grid position. Haywood Donahue, the two Brumos cars, and Larry Hall, rather Chris Hall, who we just saw on track in the Spark of Georgia Tech. So some big movers today on the Mid-Ohio circuit.
Well, just to follow up on what Dorsey said on the number 2 car, Lee, they are really concerned with that tyre. Where I checked in with Max Crawford, he said we're fine on fuel, mate, but he said I dare and risk it. We've had tyres go down to the course and we try and run them the length of the distance that we'd needed to go to get to the checkered flag today. He said I don't want to endanger the car or Andy behind the wheel, so we're in our window now. We'll certainly pit if we see a yellow, but though I don't think we're going to be able to see them stretch to the checkered flag without a pit stop.
37 minutes to go.
And right as you say that, Calvin, Andy comes down in the braking zone off the main straight, locks up quite heavily the right front tire, and the left front is really the one they've been graining and really going to the court on the left front, which is just the way the circuit runs.
Updating you on this 10 SunTrust car, Emmanuel Collard, after we saw him go a lap down, he sits 8th position behind Chris Hall and Larry Huang. The second Ganassi car of Jimmy Morales, Luis Diaz, sit in the top 5 in 5th. Just ahead of the 27, the Doran Lister of Ben Leuenberger. 3rd place in the SGS class is our old mate Cadillac Jack Baldwin.
That's a great run for these guys right now.
Yeah, he and Jim Taffel. This is a new program, new team out of Atlanta, Georgia, and have done very well. And we have to say that Jack, of course, we know Jack's racing heritage and a champion driver, but he has brought Jim Taffel along. Jim has no racing background whatsoever and has learned very, very quickly under the tutelage of Jack.
Yeah, Lee just talked with Jim Taffel down here, and he's awfully excited about where they are right now. They're obviously on the lead lap in SGS, running very well. They've just kind of kept their nose clean, and that's one of the big things in SGS right now. Most of these cars out here make quite a bit of contact. The TPC cars definitely, but Taffel and Baldwin and also the Nonamaker car have kept it real clean. That's why they're running up front.
Saw Jack there just checking his mirrors. He saw all that traffic coming at him. He moved to the outside of the racetrack, held his position, lets everybody go by. He's got a lot of racing miles under his belt, and he's not prone to make mistakes.
Twice a winner here at Mid-Ohio. He won in Trans Am. He also, that was back in '93, and he won in the Rolex Sports Car Series in the open top cars back in 2000. The 36 TPC Porsche. Jean-Francois Dumoulin behind the wheel. A new experience for him now that Doncaster Racing is focusing solely on Grand Am Cup. It's great to see JF back in the Rolex Series, Chris.
That's for sure, Lee. I talked with Mike Levitas earlier today, and he was saying he's got JF now, and he doesn't want to let him go. He's been teaming up with Randy Pobst all year, but he's pretty excited about what he's seen out of JF. They had some problems earlier today, started in the back, but they've made their way back to the front, and now JF is just trying to hunt down that Nonamaker car.
Heard an interesting story this weekend, too. JF whispered to me that he and his younger brother are working very, very hard to try and get something going in Daytona prototype land next year. Be great to see the Dumoulin brothers in the top class. Speaking of that, here is the 01 CompUSA Ganassi, Scott Pruitt. He's wounded, he's injured, but he is leading by 6 seconds. Just over 30 minutes remaining here at Mid-Ohio, round 7 of the Rolex Sports Car Series. And Scott Pruitt continues to lead and lead well. 6.5 seconds over Andy Wallace. However, we are expecting this and the second place car to pit. And what a shame for the Acme Porsche. The 84 machine has come to a stop, and that's Paul Mortimer.
This is going to be a caution because he's in the gravel trap off of turn 9. See the front end of the 81, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like their color scheme, the RX.com colors. We'll find out now. We've got a replay. So, Dorsey, you can tell us more about it.
Well, you kind of think I know what's going to happen here. I might be right. No,
that's the Maserati.
The Maserati, the two of them get together right at the apex, sending the 84 into the gravel trap. Now, it's going to be stuck there for sure. And this caution is going to really change the complexion of this race.
They haven't thrown it yet, but they will shortly, because that's in just...
right in an impact area. Yeah. If you got into that corner, well, no.
Now they throw it. Yellow's out now. Watch these guys dive for pit lane. Pruitt will be first in.
It's going to be busy on pit lane.
This is where it comes down to the guys in the pits who do such a wonderful job on all of the teams, whether it be the best Daytona prototype team or the worst Super Grand Sport team. They all work so hard, but now the pressure's on, and we focus on the Ganassi team. Can they get Pruitt serviced in time to send him before Andy Wallace and the Howard Boss Motorsport team?
It won't need much fuel, that's for sure.
Calvin's there.
Well, this should be a time stop. Obviously, there'll be no driver change. They are going to tyres, so they expect a shootout with Andy Wallace. He will definitely need tyres. We spoke to Max Crawford earlier. He's in pit lane at the same time. Fuel is going in. It should only be about half a fuel load. Right side tyres are done. They now switch over to the left side. They got the left front. Pruitt still waits patiently behind the wheel. The fueling is done. They're waiting on the left front. Andy Wallace's crew go to work at the same time. This is a battle between the teams right now, and then it's going to be Ganassi wins the battle in pit lane, and there looks like there's a slight problem with the right front on Andy Wallace, but they've corrected that, and they now send Andy underway, so there'll be some lap cars between them, and that will definitely be a factor when we go back to green.
You have to keep in mind 5 guys from Scott Dixon's IRL winning crew from last year are on that team. They are slick in the pits.
And have been practicing their pit stops because it is so important. Calvin?
Well, more action down here on pit lane. Dorsey is the 58 car. David Donahue behind the wheel. He's doing a great job. Doesn't seem to have the ultimate pace of the leaders, but they're looking for a solid top 5, maybe even a podium finish here today. Tyres are done. They're waiting on fuel, which is a little strange. They're now going to the left rear corner, so there's a slight delay over on the left side. I'll try and take a quick look here. Yeah, the guy dropped the wheel gun. He's fumbling around here, but he's recovered nicely. He's got the left rear on. As soon as they see the tyre change done, they should drop the fueling out. I don't understand the length of that fuel. About half a stint to go, Lee.
Well, remember they had that podium stolen away from them with 2 corners to go at the Paul Revere, where the 2 Howard Boss Crawfords just swooped around the outside. A podium would give them a boost, and much needed boost. We'll see what David Donahue can do in this final stint. Just half an hour left here at Mid-Ohio.
Seemed like they took on a lot of fuel. Now this Porsche runs unlimited revs. We don't know what they turn it, but we suspect near 9,000 revs. It's a 6-speed gearbox, but they really put a lot of fuel in.
What's David doing there?
David right there is adjusting something off the right side of the gear shift lever, you see. Could be brake bias. Could be sway bar. Or he could be turning the radio up.
Track officials are attending to the 84 Porsche of Paul Mortimer, stranded on the outside of turn 9. That's why we're under our 5th full course yellow. And everyone else gets back into line, takes a breather, and gets set for this final half an hour. On board with Bill Aublin.
Look at it. Look right there, shielding the sun. Look right in his eyes when he puts his hand down. That's what it's like entering turn 1. Without your hand up in front of you, you're looking straight at the sun right now.
As he heads through turn 1.
turn 1's blind enough without having the sun right in your face. I tell you, run a lot of races here when we used to do 24-hour races here. This time of night is really tricky.
So as we take a momentary pause in the racing, it could possibly be the last one as they draw breath and get ready for the final run to the checkered flag. There's a championship on the line here. There's 3 championships on the line. Round 7 of the Rolex Sports Car Series. Stay with us. We'll determine who our winners are.
Well, I'll tell you what, now we're going to have a race on our hands because all of this fuel mileage issue is over with and tire wear is no longer a factor. It's going to be who is the fastest man. Pruitt's injuries seemingly aren't affecting him whatsoever. He has been turning the faster lap times, but now they've got brand new fresh rubber on. They got whatever fuel we're putting in, and we're going to see who can be the fastest guy around here. It's a sprint race from this point on.
Interesting in GT at the moment too, because the 77 G&W car is well placed. We'll see if they can take the fight to the 21 of Bill Auble and Justin Marks. Porsche v BMW, the battle of the German giants. On board with Bill Auble at the moment, and he comes around to complete yet another lap.
Look at the sun. I mean, that's what those guys go through.
On board with our race leader.
And there's
Scott
the
Pruitt.
hand. There's the hand. He's going to have to do this while he's driving left-handed. And you see he's wearing a dark visor, or a darker visor, it appears that he's got on there in preparation for this.
Max Pappas has done a great job this week. Meanwhile, here's Vic Rice taking over from Shane Lewis in the Southern Motorsports 7. That's the BMW-powered Fab car, the only one of its kind in the field. And Vic currently sits just outside the top 10 in 11th place at the moment. Terry Borchella, after that scary moment earlier, something wrong with the steering. It sent him off at the top of turn 9 and out into the sand trap. They've fixed the problem. Forrest Barber did a short stint. Terry back in the car now for the final run.
To put a rack and pinion steering in there, more than likely.
David Donahue has this onboard shot for us.
He also with a dark visor, which he will be putting down once he gets up to speed. Right now, you keep that open because it's so hot inside there.
Let's show you a replay involving the 33, the Maserati, and this is an awkward incident.
Yeah, I'd say so. That's not the right way to go into pit in. He's missed the pit in completely and hit the wall.
Like a bit of indecision, didn't it?
Yeah, it looks like maybe at the last minute he decided to make the turn and he couldn't make it. Looks like no damage. The tire wall did its job.
Dr. Steve Earle behind the wheel.
Hate when that happens.
I think it looked like Steve, should I go in? No, should I stay out?
Exactly.
Well, we finally hear that our GT leader is on pit road. Chris.
That's right, Lee. Bill Auberlin's just brought the number 21 BMW into pit lane. He's handing it over to Justin Marks. This has got to be a very important stop for these guys. They've got to do tires, fuel, and get Justin in the car because the 77 G&W Porsche is not far behind them. Bill did clip around the track pretty quick there when he got the wave by from the pace car, so it looks like he's got quite a bit of real estate between he and the 77. The 77 hasn't even reached pit lane yet, so it looks like these guys are going to keep the lead as they get back on the racetrack, but we should be expecting that 77 of Spencer Pompelli and the G&W Porsche in just a minute to get his service too.
What a fabulous shootout between two great young American drivers, Justin Marks and Spencer Pompelli. Justin needs to get that M3 fired up. Finally he does and gets going.
That cost him some time right there for sure.
And the 77, you just saw it dive into pit lane there. Meanwhile, here's the 02, and on this current cycle of stops, the 02 is currently second in the race. Let's hear from Luis Diaz's co-driver.
Jimmy, superb run for you guys, but I understand there's a problem with the car right now, talking to Mitch, so you may have lost the power steering.
Yes, and we are trying to run without the power steering because the power steering come on and come out during the racetrack, and we don't want Luis suddenly to just don't have power steering on the middle of the corner. It's just way too dangerous.
So it's better to just switch it off and deal with the extra effort from the car.
Exactly, and then let's try to finish this race on the podium.
Okay, well, they're not worried about running out of gas. They're good on gas. They're worried about if the driver will run out of steam dealing with no power steering. Let's go down to Chris Neville.
Thanks, Calvin. Spencer Pompelli has finally brought the 77 G&W Porsche into pit lane, and the reason he didn't come in behind Bill Auberlin is because he didn't get the wave by. So these guys are in a position now where Bill got very lucky there. He's going to put a lot of distance between the 77, and it's going to be very tough for these guys to put any pressure on that BMW.
Just a quick explanation on the 02 right there. You heard about the power steering coming in and out in the middle of the corners of being too dangerous. Unlike your street car, these are electric power steerings with a switch. They can turn it off and go back to manual steering, and that's what they're talking about.
Just the one podium for the 02 this year, and that came at Watkins Glen. We did see Luis Diaz leading at Homestead earlier this year, right at the front of the pack, and he ran off track, and that was a very valuable learning experience for him very early in his sports car career. You have to remember, this young guy was a 3-time race winner in Toyota Atlantics, got to drive for a wonderful, wonderful man, Bob Doricott and Doricott Racing. Very famous team in American open wheeler racing. And now he is establishing himself well and truly in the Rolex Sports Car Series. We'll go to green when we come back. Two very experienced campaigners at the front of this field. Scott Pruitt versus Andy Wallace. Don't take Luis Diaz out of it either. He's in the middle, but Wallace has shown some incredible pace, and Pruitt has shown on multiple occasions just how well he can handle the pressure up front.
And Diaz now has Armstrong steering, and he's not a very big man, so he's going to really have to muscle this thing.
Here we go for the final run to home. Less than 22 minutes to run as the sun sets here at Mid-Ohio. Diaz, forceful on the inside. He didn't want to waste any time. He didn't want to lose any ground to Pruitt.
No time to waste right now, and these Porsche guys are going to have to know that, because Andy Wallace now is also making a move up there, and they're not going to have any tolerance for any kind of getting in my way kind of stuff.
He gets by the Planet Earth Motorsport Porsche. Now he's got Vic Rice to deal with. Vic stays wide. Good work. Good driving on both counts. On board with Rice, and you look at Andy Wallace disappear down through 3. The fast downhill run to turn 4. Can he stay with the two Ganassi cars?
Now these guys out in free traffic, they can really get down and muscle. You're going to have to put your head down and really drive 10/10. Every mark hit right on the money.
Pruitt, Diaz, Wallace, that's it. 1, 2, and 3. It's the two Lexus-powered Rileys up against this, the Pontiac Sitco Crawford. The Indianapolis cars versus the Charlotte machine. What has Andy Wallace got? They're all fueled up, they're tired up, and they are set to go. 20 minutes, the run to the line.
Two Lexus motors are really good on top end. They're turning 8,000 RPM through a 6-speed transmission. However, behind them, Andy Wallace has got the ability to torque. A lot of torque out of that Pontiac motor, which doesn't turn as many revs, but on the tight parts of the racetrack, and when they get in traffic, Andy's got the better car.
There's another Crawford that sits 4th at the moment, and it isn't the 4 of Butch Leitzinger. It's Chris Hall and Larry Huang, the spark of Georgia Tech. The highest we have seen that car, that new team and new car run. Wonderful performance from them. Looking further back down the road. And the 6, the Michael Shank car, that's a lapped car. So too is the 7, so too is the Mears Motor Coach. Here's the 39, right ahead of David Donahue and Chris Hall.
What a finish they could keep this together. That would be a tremendous effort for these guys.
Talking with Chris and Larry earlier today, and Chris said we thoroughly enjoyed testing with the Crawford organisation at VIR recently. To watch Max Crawford and his staff go to work and how they make these aerodynamic changes. They test and try new parts, and just the intensity in which they go to work. And he said Max Crawford, he's the boss and could sit back, but he said he is so hands-on and in there with the guys. He said we thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a great experience, and it certainly set us even further in the right direction.
Max Crawford is a genius, make no mistake about that. He was crew chief for me when I won a Can-Am race here, me and L.A. Ford Robinson, as a matter of fact. And he builds all these cars from scratch.
On board with Donahue, chasing Chris Hall. Behind him is the Stefan Gregoire, Doug Goad, Spirit of Daytona Crawford. The Fab car, well and truly in the hunt. It may be tough from this point to get a podium as we ride with Terry Borchella and a very challenging view.
And that is a bad view when you're trying to overtake someone or run in close proximity and you cannot see out the windshield. Terry runs a little wide, gets up on the curb there, no problem. It just means he's trying awful hard right now. Look at him, up under brake. You're going to try an outside maneuver maybe.
Donohue's got a sniff here at 4th. He sees Chris Hall. Chris Hall's right there. 3 or 4 car lengths up ahead. And David Donohue can climb back up to 4th spot. But he was on the podium at the time of that last pit stop. A little frustrating. Here is Doug Goad, Spirit of Daytona Crawford. It's got a Pontiac power plant in it as well. So 2 new teams.
Almost side by side through there, which you can do as long as both people are willing to do so cleanly, and that's going to make a bet.
Oh, Vic Rice and Doug Goad go side by side. Finally, Goad's able to squeeze through.
Doug Goad with the new graphics package has got the little checkered flag on the side. Maybe that's what's making a quicker car this weekend, but it looks nice.
And he's back with his coloured helmet. Last time he didn't run his colour. He's always run with a plain white helmet. I keep telling him, go with the black one. You seem to go better.
Those things make a difference.
Very pleasing to see this team and the spark of Georgia Tech up high in the top half dozen. Meanwhile, this chase continues. The 2 and the 0-2. Andy Wallace chasing Luis Diaz. Meanwhile, Scott Pruitt has a 2.5 second lead. 17 minutes to run here at Mid-Ohio. Can this change? Can Wallace get by Diaz, and does he have anything for Pruitt? We'll find out when we return in just a moment. We continue at Mid-Ohio, round 7 of the Rolex Sports Car Series. You're looking at race leader Scott Pruitt after taking over from Mad Max Pappas earlier in the day. And the lead has now grown by a second. While we're away, 3.5 seconds now to Pruitt. And 3rd victory in 4 races is on offer right here, right now, in 16 minutes' time.
Scott Pruitt might be driving injured, but this is a tough old bulldog here. I'll tell you that much. I've been with him as teammate and so forth over many, many years of racing. Remember, he got very, very badly injured long time back in kart car, and he's come back from that, so he's no stranger to dealing with these kind of situations.
Luis Diaz takes the defensive inside line down into turn 4. He knows that he's got Andy Wallace all over him. And this is the battle for second. And we've got trouble again with Demir's motor coach, Riley.
It's off the road there. It's not in the gravel trap, but it has no left front tire or wheel again. So it's not going to be going anywhere.
Will this bring out a caution, Dorsey? It's
yeah,
down,
it will.
Down at 4, the outside of 4, I think it is it? No, it's not.
No, it's actually...
outside of 9. Going into turn 9, that's where Terry Borchella ran off earlier.
There's the wheel and tire sitting there in the rail, in the tire wall, one of many. But that one's got an expensive wheel in it. I think they'll want it back. I think they'll have to move this car. I mean, it is on a little straightaway there, but yeah, there comes the caution.
6th caution. So they get to bunch up again. The Mears car being loaded onto the flatbed. It's quite a, seems to be taking quite a long time. This caution dragging out in the dying stages of this race. And when we come back, we'll have just over 5 minutes to the checkered flag and go racing. Scott Pruitt leads the way here at the EMCO Gears Mid-Ohio Road Racing Classic. And the last time that he and Max Pappas won was the 02's first podium. And look who sits second. It's the 02 with Luis Diaz. We're getting ready to go back racing. The pace car, the safety car's pulled off. Green flag will wave. The final 5 or 4.5 minutes to go. And Andy Wallace quick to get up there with Luis Diaz. He looks on the inside in turn 1.
He got
Good
it.
job.
Very good job. That's the power steering right there too. I see a lot of rubber around the outside of the racetrack. It's something that's telling me that if you didn't scrub your tires really good, you're going to be off for a lap or two. See all the rubber right there, all the inside of the racetrack is full of rubber. And he's got to hammer down now, and Pruitt knows it.
We heard from Max Crawford that Andy Wallace said, I don't have the power to go with the Lexus, guys. Well, he made a move there where power didn't count, right in the braking zone in turn 1. What has he got for Scott Pruitt? We'll find out in the last 3 3/4 minutes.
You heard Max say he's a little better under braking. That's right here. You see him take a little bit of that advantage away, and he's a little bit better through these twisty bits right here. But he's up against one of the best road racers there's ever been in the country, I'll tell you that. Scott Pruitt knows how to win these races.
It's been 5 races since the Sitco Crawford was on the podium, and that time it was on the top step of the podium. It is back, and back with force.
Well, I was about to say with Diaz, with these old tires, this is something that the yellow helped his arms because of the power steering, but you don't want that when you've got old tires, because when they cool down, they never come back to you again.
Max Pappas will be watching anxiously, just like Mike Hull and the rest of the boys are, at Scott Pruitt out in front. what are they doing, Dorsey? They're doing 2-minute 20 lap time, so we've got just 2 laps left to run, basically.
And Scott knows that with pending a mistake on his part, that he's got this one already. Andy, all he can do is push as hard as he can for these last 2 laps and hope that Pruitt makes a mistake, but he's not close enough to do anything about trying to pass.
Just heard an update from race control. 3 laps remaining here. 3 to go at Mid-Ohio, and we watch 2 for that battle for 3rd. Can David Donohue do anything about Chris Hall? Rather, I take that back. The battle for 4th, Donohue on Hall.
I'd say for 3rd, because Diaz, remember now, I think those tires are really giving up the ghost on that car, and he is going to be caught. So Diaz now in jeopardy of losing the 3rd place position, and he's fighting with not much to fight with. No grip because he has no rubber left in the car, no power steering.
So Wallace giving everybody he's got. There's Mike Hull on the left, team manager for Ganassi, and Max Pappas, who really took the load of work this weekend, of course, because his mate Scott Pruitt was at the Brickyard. And now Pruitt is bringing it home, steering it home, the final 2 laps around Mid-Ohio. And it will be somewhat frustrating for Andy Wallace that he can't run with Pruitt, but on the other hand, relief and celebration that they'll be back on the podium for the Howard Boss Motorsport team.
Yeah, I tell you what, Andy gave it his all back through the carousel, had a lot of understeer in the car. It just means he's really carried a lot of speed into the corner. But look back, there's Diaz right there in the 3rd place, the 0-2, but look behind him and realize that he could be caught still with just a couple laps to go.
And here they come, the spark of Georgia Tech. It's Chris Hall. There's a lap car of Terry Borchella in between. Then it's David Donohue and Doug Goad. So Goad's in with a shout on perhaps getting Donohue. That'll be interesting in these closing few laps.
Chris Hall, what a great job he's doing. These guys really, really have struggled this year. All that, sorry.
That sportsmanship there. Terry Borchella moving aside to let Donohue by to say, you go at it. You're fighting for position, go at it.
Absolutely right. And Donohue's doing his best job, but Hall's going to try to hang tough here. This will be their best finish. Boy, can he hold on, though. The work from Crawford obviously has worked out. These cars all coming up to speed this week. Oh, 47.
Mike Boffman.
Oh, my goodness, and that's not good.
Well, we will get the white flag this time by, so I will say they'll hold off on going to a full course caution.
Yeah, they'll probably cover that with a local yellow.
Let's hope anyway, because finishing under caution is pretty frustrating. 1 more lap to go, though, for the CompUSA Ganassi team, and they will have their 3rd victory in 4 races. The first 3-time winner in the 2004 season. They came into this round with an 11-point margin over the SunTrust. Riley for Wayne Taylor, Max Angelelli, and Collard and Taylor back in 8th place at the moment. They will get points, of course, but not as many as Wayne Taylor would have hoped for.
And for Luis Diaz, he's going to have enough in hand to get that 3rd place, and well-deserved. He's worked real hard to come from where he had to get up to that 3rd place.
7 cars on the lead lap as we bring it toward the checkered flag. And Andy Wallace, Milka Duno, very valuable championship points. And that will leapfrog Andy a few positions in the championship standings, I'm sure. He's well positioned in the top 5. In fact, make that, he's 3rd behind the Ganassi and SunTrust duo. So very, very valuable day here for Andy Wallace as we ride home with the 0-1 of Scott Pruitt. 2 wins apiece coming into this one between the 0-1 and the 10. Now the CompUSA boys, the Ganassi team, take the higher ground in the 2004 Rolex Sports Car Championship. Pruitt won here back in 87 in Trans Am. Now he's a Rolex Sports Car winner at Mid-Ohio. Pappas and Pruitt and Ganassi, they do it. And the EMCO
look at this.
And the SGS battle rages here between the Nonamaker and the TPC guys. Jean-Francois Dumoulin is in there. He is pushing as hard as he can. So too is Andy Lally. Look at this sideways stuff. Lally forces his way through in the 38. And Nonamaker, Wayne Nonamaker is under siege.
He gave him a shot right there. They got a half a lap to go. And this is for the 1st, 2nd, 3rd place. That's actually the battle for the lead.
Jean-Francois Dumoulin tries to come back on Lally. He can't. They're old mates from the Lexus days, and Wayne Nonamaker's under siege.
It's going to get ugly up here. Not this corner, not this left hand, but the next one. The next right hander, the carousel. It's the only place anybody can do anything, and it's not easy to do there. Watch.
And Wayne Nonamaker's got enough. He will get his second consecutive victory. But look at the teammates going hard at it. Dumoulin and Andy Lally fighting to the line. Well done, Wayne Nonamaker. Back-to-back victories in the Super Grand Sport class. And a thrilling race to the line.
What a battle.
With the TPC boys. And Justin Marks, Bill Auberlen win their second consecutive race. But for Bill Auberlen, that is 6 victories in a row. Quite stunning. And he is well on his way to being a GT Rolex champion yet again. He did it 2 years ago. And Bill Auberlen and young Justin Marks, another fine effort. But here is Scott Pruitt, he and Pappas, they've done it again. The Lexus Riley combination, victorious for the 3rd time. We'll hear from them when we return. Time to hear from our winners. Here's Calvin. Thanks.
Well, Scott Pruitt was certainly in a lot of pain when he came out of the car, but the adrenaline counts for a lot. Scott, a great win for you today.
Great win. The guys did a great job. Max did a great job. And man, I'm hurting right now. Hi to my family. And we had a little bit of a try to knock down the fence over in Indy, and I'm feeling for it right now. But a win always helps take the pain away.
Superb job, and Max, big day for you in the points with the 10 car struggling.
Fantastic. Today for everybody, the Comp USA car was a great job. Drove like hell in the first stint, gave the car back to Scott, and unfortunately Scott doesn't feel that good, but he's going to have a relief driver tomorrow over there in Indy.
Okay, Max is ready. Let's get up top to Lee.
Great job by the Ganassi boys. First 3-time winners. Let's take a look at the results. Top 6 in Daytona prototypes look like this, and we have to give special mentions there to Hall and Huang, Gregoire and Go. They finished 5th and 6th. Great results. Best in their Daytona prototype short career. So well done to those guys, and also to Morales and Diaz for fighting onto their 2nd podium of the year. And for the Brumos Porsche, good, strong finish. Let's take a look at GT. We know who our winners are. 6th straight victory for Bill Auberlen. But what about Mark Greenberg and Spencer Pumpelly? New program in the G&W camp for that car, that team. Well done to those boys. And Gleason, James and Valentine, another podium. Well done to them. So 2 Porsches on the podium. And what a thrilling finish it was in SGS. And Wayne Nonamaker, he got there again over the 2 TPC Porsches. But I think that Andy Lally and Mark Bunting will still lead the championship. Congratulations to those boys. Our SunTrust biggest movers, we'll talk about that right now. 12th to 2nd for Andy Wallace and Milka Duno. The Racers Group got there for GT, and the Grease Monkey boys in SGS. Dorsey, did you enjoy today?
I loved it. We got 1 week to watch them, Glenn, and I cannot wait.
Short course up there that comes your way in just a week's time, and you can catch it right here on Speed Channel from 1 p.m. Eastern next Sunday, August 15th, the Watkins Glen short course. More Rolex Series action. On behalf of Chris Neville and Calvin Fish, also Dorsey Schrader, I'm Lee Diffie. Thanks for joining us for the EMCO Gears Mid-Ohio Road Racing Classic. More Rolex Series and DP action coming your way in a week's time.